Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. Uh, it's day 5 of climate activist Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike at Delhi's Jantar Mantar. His health condition is continuously deteriorating. In fact, Cockroach Janta Party founder Abijeet Dipke, through a tweet, has informed that his sugar level has dropped to 60 and the blood pressure is also very, very low. He even stated that if anything happens to Sonam Wangchuk, the government will be responsible. And in fact, over the last 1 or 2 days, we've been seeing that veteran left leader Brinda Karat was seen expressing solidarity with Sonam Wangchuk at the Jantar Mantar, followed by TMC's Sagarika Ghose. But why are the other opposition parties shying away from supporting Sonam Wangchuk and also Cockroach Janta Party, whereas the only demand they have is that they are asking the government to be accountable. They're seeking Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. And in fact, also, the mainstream media hasn't reported too much on this Cockroach Janta Party protest, which is happening at Jantar Mantar. Now, this is what Abijeet Dipke has tweeted just a few hours back, day 5 of hunger strike. Sonam Wangchuk's health is continuously deteriorating. Sugar level has dropped to 60 and blood pressure is also very low. If anything happens to Sonam sir, the government will be responsible for it. So now the big question is that why are the mainstream parties shying away from expressing solidarity at Jantar Mantar, also with Sonam Wangchuk? What happens if Sonam Wangchuk's health condition deteriorates? Now, is this a pattern almost similar to what we saw during the Anna Hazare movement, the India against corruption? Almost a similar script being played out. So, and why is also the media shying away from the coverage? All this we'll try and discuss. And the biggest question, can Sonam Wangchuk and the Cockroach Janta Party force the government to budge, can force Dharmendra Pradhan to resign? That's $1 million question. And joining me this evening is senior journalist TK Rajlakshmi. Thank you so much, Rajlakshmi, for joining. We have Professor Ajay Gudawardi from Jawaharlal Nehru University, professor and author. Thank you so much for joining. And let me begin with TK Rajlakshmi. Rajlakshmi, what is your feeling about this protest which is happening? Sonam Wangchuk, TMC Sagarika Ghose and Brinda Karat have expressed solidarity with him for now. But where are the other political parties? Is there something which you find missing, despite the energy, despite the zeal, and despite the commitment to the cause which is so visible?
See, Nilu, the left parties have, in fact, definitely come out, and supported the agitation for the causes that it represents, and in which earlier on the CPI ML General Secretary, the Pankar Bhattacharya, and also the General Secretary of the CPIM, MA Baby, and Brinda Karat, as you in fact mentioned already. They went to the site and they sort of expressed their solidarity, and Sagarika Ghosh also went, as well as some people's right to information, in fact activists, etc., like Anjali Bharadwaj, etc., also went. So I think as far as the left parties are concerned, they have been quite clear as far as the cause is concerned. As I said, the cause of the fact, the state of affairs, in higher education today, and including education as a whole, the entire lack of accountability, when around 20 or more students have committed suicide, and plus the serial paper leaks, in a sense. I mean, it's not just a local level paper. It's about NEET itself, and of course in several states there have been sustained, in fact, paper leaks, and including scams, in the recruitment of be it teachers, be it constables, be it various things. So there's been a sustained let's say, system of corruption. I mean, as far as these exams go, because they are the only ticket, for skilled people to have a foothold, in some area of work, or in some, I think, industry in which they can also make a life for themselves. And of course, this entire competitive system of examinations also, that pushes young people, either in either to get admissions or for a job, in that sense, the recruitment exams. So I think as far as the issue is concerned, yes, the left parties have been quite upfront in supporting the cause. And I think, apart from the initial, I think, hesitation, where a lot of course, campaign was going on that the CJP is a B team of the RSS, the BJP and all. There was, I think, there was some amount of, suspicion, which is quite, I think, legitimate. But I think, as it sort of transpired, it wasn't so. And that once it became, kind of established that it is quite, that they're quite sincere about about their, approach, and about their demands. The left student organizations, in fact, like the All India Students Association, the Students uh, Federation of India, the All India Students Federation, AISF, all of them, they in fact converged at, uh, Jantar Mantar, which also gave, in fact, a certain degree, not a certain degree, but I think, like, a large degree of credibility to the whole organization, because at that point everybody was, wondering, ये कहाँ से आया है, funding कहाँ से है, who's sort of funding them, and which are all I think, legitimate questions also. But once I think, the left students in fact joined them, it became quite clear that there was no external source of whatever funding or any corporate funding, behind the agitation and behind the movement. So as such, it has gained, I think, credibility. Now, as far as the other political parties are concerned, the Congress, yes, it did issue statements of support. There is no doubt about it, and they did not, again, sort of, rubbish the CJP as a, the B team of the RSS, etc., or that of the BJP. But it took some time for them to sort of, as it was with every other political party, it did take some time for them to actually sort of, extend their, I'd say, that the left parties at the outset itself said that is fine, that this is that the issues that they're raising, are fine. They did not comment beyond about its source, or about its credibility, or how it came, whatever came about. Right now, of course, the our let's say, like, the mainstream media, instead of saying the mainstream media, since I'm a media person and so are you, so I'm saying our mainstream media, they did go the extra length to sort of portray them as 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 some kind of a gray entity, which needs to be, whose antecedents need to be sort of verified, and that there was something, extremely dubious about this, or that it was an opposition sponsored, movement or protest. Just like they said, when the workers' protest came out, in Noida, as well as Gurgaon, the spontaneous workers' protest was also sort of labeled as, an opposition kechal, and an opposition plot to sort of defame the Yogi government, and also the BJP government. Anyhow, so I think that the initial
No,
skepticism
but
was over.
Rajlakshmi, normally
Yeah.
in a situation like this, supposing if things go out of hand and Sonam Wangchuk's condition really deteriorates, what can the government do? Can the government forcefully push him into the hospital to just dilute this entire protest which is
Yeah.
happening at the Jantar Mantar? Can they do that?
It can, because I think it would amount. I mean, if you're going to forcibly starve yourself and sort of fast unto death, it is tantamount to, let's say, criminal act. I don't think suicide is a, is sort of legally approved in any society, or maybe at least not in our society, at least. It's not sort of legally, allowed. So it would be considered that, almost, and he would be force fed, or he would be sort of taken to the hospital in case his health, deteriorates. And I'm sure that the government, wouldn't want, I think, that to happen, because he is, after all, popular leader. He has I think, a fairly good following also, Nilu. So I don't think they would sort of push it to that point. They might call for some talks, etc. They might do that, assure that they'll set up, a committee, which is the most standard thing to do, to sort of look into their grievances. I have a
It's
feeling
really
it would go through.
unfortunate. Rajlakshmi, one more question I'll ask you, and then
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go to Professor Ajay. that people have begun to write on the social media. In fact, they are reminding the people of
Yeah.
his older protest, the climate change protest which he
Okay.
did, where packets of ORS and other electrolytes were discovered. Now people, they have started putting out pictures like these. It will come out on
Yeah.
your screen. See, Wangchuk is redefining innovation. Dozens of ORS packets
Wow.
recovered during his last hunger strike in Ladakh. That is what
Mhm.
the people have begun. Now, how will I mean? Though he's not doing it, he's on a hunger strike at Jantar Mantar. But people on social media have begun to project all this.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
Rajat.
I would, yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't say people. There would be obviously a section of people who are doing this. The
Section of
same
people. Yes.
section of people who also try to project Saurav Das, who is one of the founders of the CJP as a, stooge, of the BJP, etc. Of the, I mean, he's a founder of the CJP, and to sort of portray him as if he's a stooge, of the BJP, because he had tweeted his support, to Mr. Modi when he was, a 17-year-old. He was a kid then. I mean, obviously, people change over the years, and it's good that he changed. Anyhow, so I think all those old tweets, were sort of dug up. So these are, I think, standard, SOPs. To sort of defame, a movement, or to defame, I think, a genuine movement, or to turn, genuine people's grievance into something, of a gimmick, or something, of
Yeah.
a mockery, and to say that, देखो ये लोग
Right.
पीछे से खाना खा रहे हैं. It's
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let me come to Professor Ajay. What is your feeling? You followed so many social movements. The way Cockroach Janta Party has begun, they started around 3rd or 4th of June. Now, it's added another dimension to it, and that is Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike. It's day 5 of hunger strike by Sonam Wangchuk. Do you think that Sonam Wangchuk's presence can really make a difference to this protest, which has been started by Cockroach Janta Party?
Well, Nilu, I think the point you began with, the optics of this movement, very strangely are very similar to Anna Hazare movement, whether intended or otherwise. Sonam Wangchuk is like Anna Hazare, and then you have this, instead of Ram Leela, now you have Jantar Mantar, and it's a media managed movement. It's entirely dependent on media projection. So there is certain apprehensions that mainstream political parties might have in terms of what is, it's not about the issue and agenda. Perhaps parties have less apprehension in identifying with, but the social character of the movement. You have similar social activists who strongly identified with Anna Hazare movement, like Prashant Bhushan and others, who are also now the face of this movement. So there, I think political parties have some reason to do some wait and watch. While the issue is genuine, youngsters who are joining the movement are genuine. It's quite possible that the movement, which are usually media managed and media manufactured, have a certain social character to themselves. Popular mobilization otherwise looks very different. Like, for instance, farmers movement was very, very different. One could make out the farmers movement is not something that can be manufactured. There's an organic link to the villagers.
Because
We
Professor Ajay, there is certainly an element of skepticism because people try and connect it with what has happened during the Anna Hazare movement. But a lot of farmers also have now gathered at Jantar Mantar. They are also expressing solidarity, looking at the genuinity of the cause. Don't you think that now it's time, the time is ripe for the mainstream media plus the political parties as well to rally around Sonam Wangchuk?
Yeah, I think apprehension is less about the issue and the genuineness of the agenda than the leadership. Like, Mr. Dipte's, is suddenly sprouted. Like none of us knew who Anna Hazare was. Suddenly, he was a media spectacle. He walked into 100 most powerful individuals in India, and he just disappeared. So I think there is some similar apprehension about Mr. Abijeet also, that how did it suddenly manufactured from US, dropped from the US, this kind of a sudden response through media, blitzkrieg, and social media campaign. So there is, I think, one should not completely, I wouldn't fully rubbish the suspicion that no political parties would have. But having said that, as no, it was pointed out, I think the agenda is genuine, the crisis is genuine. But the other problem is also in terms of its analytical depth. The Anna Hazare movement had a problem of depicting corruption as a moral problem of the society, not the political economy, not about institutions. Corruption was a much deeper issue. Anna Hazare depicted as if it's about the moral character. So it could attract actors, and people spoke all kinds of flippant things about corruption. I see something similar here. There is no serious discussion about the nature of crisis of education in this movement. It is just resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Tomorrow you have cabinet reshuffle. In all probability, Dharmendra Pradhan will be moved out and Nirmala Sitaram might take over as education minister. That's my reading of the situation. The larger problem is that there is no serious analysis of education crisis. So you need to have a structural political economy analysis, and crisis of education has something to do with the social economic vision of this regime. So is this movement willing to connect these two things? Why is there such a crisis? Dharmendra Pradhan is not the issue. You push Dharmendra Pradhan, there are 10 other Pradhans waiting to walk into his shoes. There has to be a concerted public campaign on the nature of crisis. Why is education being pushed? Is this movement taking a strong position on privatization, on private capital into the education sector? Is the need linked to the caste question? There is a serious caste dimension that exists as to why education is being made so trivialized. Even as we are talking today, UGC NET sociology paper, they found 20 errors. And NTA came out and had the gumption to come out with the statement that typographical errors is nothing new and there have been no complaints from students. But the question paper is the quality and nature of question paper. So there is a very concerted attempt to trivialize entire higher education, and the rate at which it's happening is simply astounding. Is this movement willing to confront that question? Is this movement trying to say that there should be complete education should be in the public sector? I think those are the serious issues that I really don't find. I mean, it's simply a flippant argument that Dharmendra Pradhan should resign. So, and then there is a parallel movement that Rahul Gandhi is also launching. Now, there is also in electoral democracy, you have this problem of visibility. Now, you want to lead, political parties want to be at the forefront. So, there is also this apprehension that why is this movement running parallelly? I mean, what is the equation between political movement, electoral politics, and popular mobilization? That also is this movement possibly to diffuse the question of protest? Tomorrow they retract. What is going to happen to these issues? I think so. I think we'll have to see the big picture, even as we side with this movement with the intent of, serious social activists who are joining, whether it's Prashant, Yogendra, Nandita Narayan, they're very serious social activists with great credibility. So as we extend our solidarity, I think we need to raise that the movement, I think, singularly failed to bring any serious attention to the nature of educational crisis. It's a very flippant demand to say some minister should resign. I mean, government itself might remove him tomorrow and cabinet reshuffle is on cards. What will this movement do next? Suppose Dharmendra Pradhan goes, Nirmala Sitaraman comes in. What will this movement do next? Its demand fizzles out. So entire movement of crisis created on education, the entire movement just fizzles out. And public movements, popular, it's not easy to mobilize them. You cannot again start tomorrow if there's another paper leakage. You cannot have another movement. So I think these are, I don't know whether mainstream political parties have these apprehensions, but my reading would be that I think these apprehensions are fair, and we should be in a dialogue with this movement to bring greater discussion on the nature of crisis linked to the model of development. I think these are all NEET, exam, farmers' crisis, they're all interlinked. Is this movement willing to go that far? Does it have that in-depth understanding of this question? It's something that we, at least till now, we may not rule out, but it's something that we did not find till date.
Absolutely. No, that's a very quite a relevant point. And in fact, I'll come to Professor Tanveer now. Do you think that this Cockroach Janta Party has a flippant demand? It's very short term. There is no long-term agenda, as far as the Cockroach Janta Party's aims and goals and objectives are concerned. And Ajay is right that what if Dharmendra Pradhan resigns or he's asked to quit and there is another minister who's brought in? How will the things change? There is no discussion on that. So should the Cockroach Janta Party, or for that matter, even Sonam Wangchuk, rather than depending so much on the optics of the hunger strike, because hunger strike at the end of the day is all about optics, that okay, you have a sympathy factor, the leader is on a hunger strike, there'll be people rallying around you, but what beyond that? So how is that question going to be dealt with?
Well, I think that, if just to say that the Cockroach Janta Party is asking for just simply resignation, I think it's not correct. Their short-term, immediate demand, of course, is that the minister must resign. But they are not sitting over there just for one demand. They may be saying it, right? They call themselves as a citizen movement now. They have mentioned it at a couple of places. They have, talked in their speeches
No,
also
but
that
don't
it's a
you think that
citizens
it
movement.
lacks clarity, Professor Tanveer? Because on one hand, you have a Cockroach Janta Party protest, which is happening at Jantar Mantar. On the other hand, you have a Congress's own program that is called Chhatro Ki Gunj. Once Rahul Gandhi comes back to Delhi, I'm sure he's going out
So that's
to
precisely,
various
yeah.
other
So
cities.
So
Yes.
that's precisely what I'm saying is that, I mean, just by focusing on this specific, immediate, short-term demand that the education minister must resign. Of course, I mean, you must have seen that most of the political parties also they started with the same demand, right? Congress, in the beginning, Congress demanded that, and other political parties they demanded that the education minister should resign. But the good part of this whole movement is that it has opened up the space for a lot of discussions. If you look into the discussion which takes place, the speeches, most of the leaders from the left, not from the Congress, but of course, those who are, from the opposition, all those who are going there, they are not just simply talking about resignation of the education minister. They are discussing about the academic, the educational system of this whole country, that how crippled it has become, and how it has gone from bad to worse. So it has opened up the debate. So two things it has done, which I'm very happy about it, is that it has opened up the space for a better oppositional strikes and oppositional protests, right? It has opened up the space. And the second thing, of course, it has done is that there are parties and groups and associations who are, separately or maybe together, whatever, they are demanding and talking the same language, right? So that is, in a sense, that it is increasing the strength of the opposition. It is trying to forge alliance. At this moment, what I'm seeing is that Cockroach Janta Party now has invited political parties, anyone from political party who can come and talk about if they feel that they want that this kind of protest should be there. So it has opened up. So Cockroach Janta Party is forging alliances, and I'm very sure, and I somehow disagree with Ajay, is that they are not going to just finish it off after education minister is removed, because there are so many issues which are there in education system, and I'm sure that they're going to pick it up, because it's, after all, the next question that they are going to pick it up is the unemployment issue. I'm dead sure, because uh, there's so many of them discussing about the unemployment issue, and I'm glad that they were discussing about unemployment issue. The unemployment issue itself would forge a big alliance, which would further lead to demands of various other issues also. Within unemployment, you have all kinds of issues which are within it. So I think let's not be very skeptical about this political movement. It is a political movement. All political movement begins from a social movement. I mean, the students of political science would agree to this, and it is going to take a shape, in a sense that it would be in the oppositional front. I mean, I heard Abhijeet talking about that if Congress would have been there and they would have doing the same thing, we would have been protesting against the Congress, right? So what Dipke wants to say is that they are resisting the government, the incumbent government. They are trying to forge alliance. They are trying to aggregate the public opinion. I'm very glad that public opinion is taking shaping, in a sense that it is, and the fact that, you see, the victory of
Right.
CJP, the victory of CJP would be if Dharmendra Pradhan is removed. That would be its first major victory. Now from here they would go for larger, broader issues, which of course they have in their bucket list.
Right. In fact, Sonam Wangchuk, just a short while back, that is yesterday's tweet of Yogendra Yadav, who said that nobody is better than Sonam Wangchuk. Here's the tweet that today I joined the protest of the Cockroach Janta Party at Jantar Mantar against the ongoing paper leaks in the country. In India today, if anyone has the most authentic moral right to speak on the question of education, it is Sonam Wangchuk. For the past 4 days, he has been on a hunger strike for the future of the country's youth. I met him and extended my support to his struggle. I also met the companions sitting on hunger strike at Jantar Mantar. Every struggle that raises the fundamental question of the youth is a struggle for our shared future. Standing with every such struggle is the demand of the times. Rajlakshmi,
So
now the big
yeah.
question is, the big question now is that can Sonam Wangchuk really force the government to buckle down? And when we say buckle down, then does it mean, as what Professor Tanvir just pointed out, that of course the first big achievement would be if Dharmendra Pradhan steps down. So can they really
See,
force
yeah.
Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike? Can it force the government to push out Dharmendra Pradhan from the education ministry?
See the hunger strike is a kind of uh, I mean, let's say like some kind of a pressure tactic, right? Now it's quite obvious that all political leaders can't be sitting on a hunger strike. I mean, they have to sort of take it up in different forms. The issue has to be raised in different forms, has to be in fact taken up at different fora, etc. So you have him as a symbol, and he has a certain following, let's say, but I wouldn't say that he has a pan India following, okay, like the other political parties have. They have national footprint, and they have been involved in sort of raising people's issues through their organizations, through their mass organizations, etc. In fact, I was quite, in fact, pleasantly surprised to see the NSUI also getting, energized and activated in this whole process. The NSUI would never, I mean, hardly has had any record of sort of taking up student issues on, consistent, in a consistent, manner. Other than, apart from the left student organizations, etc., who have consistently raised issues, of privatization of education, of the centralization of education, and all these evils as such, being symptomatic, of what is wrong with the educational system. So I think Sonam Wangchuk is a symbol of sorts, of this resistance. It's good that he's come and is giving a certain moral edge or moral force to whatever it is. I mean, I'm not going to read sort of too much into it, because he's just one, individual, as I said. I do not even think if he has a huge following in Delhi itself. He has a base in Ladakh, and he's worked there, etc., which is absolutely, I think, legitimate, whatever it is. But so I don't think that it should also so
Right.
impinge on his fast as a success or a failure, right? Because these issues are going to remain. I think, irrespective of the fact, even if the CJP ceases to exist, tomorrow, okay, these issues are not going to go away, and they have been sort of openly now sort of discussed in this form, which is good, I think, which is really good, and which is whether it's Dipke who gave this the outlet, for these issues to be discussed. But as I said, student organizations have been, in fact, raising it. Teachers organizations, especially the democratic teachers organizations, they have been raising these issues for years altogether, right?
Right.
And but
All right.
but it's not been sort of really got the kind of media attention it takes a Dipke to come
Right.
from there, and then to sort of give a certain amount of importance
Right.
to an issue such as education, Nilu. So I think it's a fairly big thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now everybody compares, whichever movement comes up, and there are natural comparisons with what we saw during India against corruption. Do you think that this Cockroach Janta Party, Professor Ajay, can gain those proportions, that scale, that magnitude, which we saw at that time?
No, that's precisely the point, Nilu. The point is why one needs to be skeptical is that one, I think, in principle, exclusively middle class movements, I'm very fairly skeptical of that. This urban middle class movements, their social character and their social understanding, in spite of all our respect for social activists, their commitment, including left, student organizations being part of it, while one concedes all of that, with great credibility. But social character of the movement is a very middle class kind of a social character. And the point that Rajalakshmi, that social character is therefore linked to the way movement gets projected. It's all about Dipte, it's all about Sonam Wangchuk. I don't see anybody in this country after this movement has started discussing the seriousness of educational crisis, the in-depth educational crisis. The question that we should be framing is, why is it not getting foregrounded? It is Dipte versus Pradhan. I mean, this is like, Anna Hazare versus, the old Manmohan Singh corruption kind of a thing, where there is no serious understanding. That lack of seriousness in the society inadvertently might kill off the issue itself, because people will get tired of such movements. So tomorrow, if somebody wants to raise it at a serious level, there may not be enough response. So that skepticism, it's not to suspect the intent of those involved. It is not to suspect, the intention of the agenda and so on and so forth. But this social character of the movement, I think we need to critically analyze. And therefore, one way it can foreground is to bring other sections, gig workers question. These are all interlinked questions. The question of, the question of farmers, and I'm glad breaking ground. So there has to be a resonance at the grassroots level. There has to be some groundswell in terms of its electoral implications, in terms of its political messaging. The point is that we are not finding that. If you watch closely, Anna Hazare movement too did that. It occupied too much of media space, did next to nothing in terms of raising the issue of corruption. It simply moralized the issue of corruption. There is a similar tone with this movement. I mean, why is that? I'm sure Nandita and others who are part of movement are raising that educational crisis. The question we need to raise it, why is that not being foregrounded? Why is that messaging not going across? Why is it about Dipte versus Sonam Wangchuk versus, Pradhan? It could be a media game. It could be the way media is covering, but this is an issue that we need to introspect and internally critically raise. Some of these issues need to be discussed, and rather than uncritically endorse the movement because it has a good intention. Shakespeare said, "Best of intentions can have worse of consequences." Right. So we don't suspect intent, but the consequence is what one is worried about.
Right. Let me come to Professor Tanveer. If you can hear me, is there a? Oh, I think he cannot hear us. Okay, so we'll have to wait and watch how this movement unfolds. We'll have to end the program. Thank you so much, Professor Ajay. Rajalakshmi, thank you very much for joining.